you're doing your brand a service. You're actually slowly leaking fans every time you come on.
That's
So
awesome.
glad you volunteer for this every week.
I love doing this.
It's fun.
Super fun. Yeah,
If you lose a few fans, like,
it's
so
worth
what?
it.
You gain new ones. Like, if people unfollow you because of something you said, then they will speak
Also,
all the
let's aim for about 30 minutes.
30? Okay, sure. I got to Zoom with shout out to Mike Wenger. I got to talk to him next. Yeah, 30 minutes.
Perfect.
We got a lot on the docket today. Darshan, what's the first one, man? First of all, go follow Darshan, and if you're watching or listening, his link to his LinkedIn's underneath.
You know what? Before we started, Dan, you actually came out and said I'm going to lose followers. So I'm not sure I want to talk about what my LinkedIn is. They're going to unfollow me at that point.
No, they need to. Like, these are new people. They will follow you to make up for the lost ones.
Oh,
We're gonna piss some people off every time.
So this is where we piss people off.
Yes. Weekly habit.
Can I start?
Yeah.
You may not have a job in like a year.
That's true. And ourselves included. Like, we are not immune from this.
I'm going to give you a little bit more wiggle room on that one. So I think the goal is going to be develop your own brand, be your own boss. Because if you work for someone, AGI is coming, artificial general intelligence, which means that a computer is going to be smarter than a human being.
Right.
And if that's true.
So if history is any barometer of like how to predict the future for our industry, I've been saying this since I started my channel. The one benefit we have of being in such a slow to adapt industry is we're not caught off guard anymore. Like, we'll see it everywhere else before it affects us. Do you think this will continue to be true, or is this time different?
It'll always be true. However, I believe in a slightly different model, which is I think what we started off with was more clickbait by saying that, oh, you're going to lose a job. Truth is, we're probably going to land up being closer to the horse, less close to the horse buggy model, which is cars come in and horses go out, and closer to every technological change we've seen before, which is people will all level up and people will say, okay, you need to use AI. Now what can you do?
The AI is here to augment us, not necessarily to replace.
Yeah. So I think if you were picking up phone calls, your job's gone. But now what can you do if you're not picking up phone calls that AI is not covering? That's your new job. Is it monitoring a bunch of different AIs to make sure that they do their job right? Is it making sure that you actually follow up with people? So it's more of a sales function. Is it more of talking to patients? Because that's something that should have happened the entire time, but you simply didn't have the manpower for it. Where does your job evolve to? Be like Gretzky. Go where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is.
A rare sports reference.
I know.
That's a good one. Okay, that makes everyone a little less there. So there's two things going on at the same time. There's this global outsourcing push, and there's this CTO need to find technology that will augment, not replace, the workers, the existing workers.
Well, so I think it's going to be people will be replaced to the extent that you continue to do the job. It reminds me of like pharmacies right now, where pharmacies are closing because they're using the same model they used 20 years ago. And people are going, oh, pharmacies are closing. And I'm going, no, people don't want to leave their house. They're going, bring me my meds to my house. Right. So your neighborhood pharmacy may close.
Pharmacies are adapting.
Correct. Exactly.
And as the
those that don't adapt will die.
As the Gen Xers and millennials get older, they're already used to this technology, so it's no longer that excuse of, well, it's for the old people. The old people still like to go into the store. Well, you and I are going to do that. Yeah, there's not enough, and plus they're going to die, and you and I are going to be the next old people, and we're used to doing everything online.
Exactly. And we're not even digital natives.
That's right.
Imagine that next generation after.
The one my son will be born hopefully any day now, but this is the first year of the new generation beta, which is an
That's
awful
right.
name, but
I know, right? It's
they're
like
called Gen
you're in
Beta.
progress.
They're gonna be AI native, is what they're calling
Is that
them.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's wild, man. It's gonna be wild.
I feel like you should rename it from like Gen Beta to like Gen AI or something. Oh, wait, we already have Gen AI.
We have Gen AI. Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna figure something out, but
AI
Gen
Gen.
Beta
There we go.
because it's
Something like that.
following Gen Alpha.
Yeah. But does your son know how lucky he is to have the Dan Safara as his dad? Not a
I'll
Dan
let
Safara, not the Dan Safara, the Dan Safara.
I'll remind him constantly as soon as he's capable of
I-
understanding.
See, here's the thing. I'm not sure I believe you. Again, before we started, you told me that you're one step above one cat. There's a cat that outranks you in your house, two dogs that outrank you, your
Yeah,
wife, and your to-be-born child.
we have a parakeet, but she doesn't really count. So I'm
No,
probably
the one
somewhere
other
there
animal you
between
outrank.
between the cat and the parakeet is like my hierarchy. At the office too, man. At the clinic, I'm like, I basically replace myself. Like, hey, you guys do your job. I'll see you. We'll let the numbers show what's going on. I'm here to put out fires, and that's it. So, I mean, in a way, it's like you're right when you say business owners. We're already used to replacing ourselves. Like we try to do that in our businesses. We build systems,
That's
right?
yeah, scale.
hmm
Speaking of ownership, how's Site Owners Academy doing?
We have another student, so it's going slower
Whoa.
than I would like, but I think we're actually have to do our teacher week one of these days soon.
Yeah,
We got to
I
ask her.
literally just got an email from Judy, which is why I said that.
Ah, okay. So they know better than I. But yeah, I'm gonna be on one of these week one, principal investigator responsibilities. I'm with the great Dr. Al Jasirely,
Oh,
oncologist, hematologist in Hollywood Presbyterian,
damn.
Los Angeles, California. Shout out to Dr. Al.
Dr. Al.
Yeah. You never met him?
I don't know if I have. I feel like I met
Okay.
someone, but I have a terrible memory.
Yeah, he's a good guy to get to know. I'll introduce you at SOS.
Oh,
So
I'm excited to come. Do I have a topic by the way for SOS?
you do.
Have you told me what the topic is?
It's written down somewhere. I can't remember. Something about scaring people and losing followers. That's the goal.
I'm
We
like the
try to
expert
get
on that.
we
The
try to get
expert on how to lose
Darshan
followers.
less followers every year by like pissing more people off and scaring more people. Is that works? That's a good strategy.
Yeah. How not to run your social media calendar and your
Yeah,
feed.
because if you scare more people, yeah, you'll get more clients, but you'll lose more regular followers. So you'll actually have less followers but more clients. It's
I
actually a
like it.
brand new model. We got to figure this out, man. Maybe something there. AI can never replace that.
Not the way it exists right now. I'm wondering where it's going to take us. I mean, I think
Did you
the
see
FDA can
Meta?
stop.
Did you see Zuckerberg's Meta commentary?
No, tell me.
The other day, this is related to this topic. The other day, he brought up that Facebook and Instagram is experimenting with AI profiles. So not even real
That part.
profiles.
Okay, there are two different things. One is they actually threw it out. This was like this week, I want to say, where people are like, "No, I don't want your fake AI avatars talking to me.
Right,
I get too much spam already."
right.
But I think going back a few months, Zuckerberg came out. So, a couple of different things. This is becoming an AI conversation, which I was not expecting. But
Well, everything is.
so I just heard somewhere, you know, those old ass Encyclopedia Britannica models,
Yeah, I
the
used to have them.
encyclopedias.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently they're worth like that concept is worth like $1 billion or something, is what someone said. Like that seems ridiculous.
The book?
It's yeah, those books, the
Like
knowledge in them.
as the antique or something?
That's well, antique definitely not worth $1 billion, but it's the last source of unadulterated information before AI came in. So if you're looking for pure information that is
That's
not
not
AI
true. Look at
generated,
this video where I mean,
but it's the entire source is before AI came in.
I see.
I find that to be an interesting concept. So purity of data is a
Yeah.
big concern that people are working through.
And that's something that they saying is going to restrict AI's growth, not just memory usage and
Yep.
reasoning and all the stuff that's coming next, but
Yep.
it's the lack of data. So all the data is like the majority of the data will soon be AI generated as
Right.
opposed to human. And that AI generated data is not very good for AIs to learn because they're learning from themselves, which I guess at some point it will be useful, but not yet.
So I think two different things come out of that. So the first thing that comes out of it is, what's his name? Zuckerberg came out and said, you know what? We don't actually need more data. We can actually work off of our own data and train our own systems. And he thinks that's how we're going to continue. I don't know how realistic that'll be, but the other piece that came out, now I'm going back like 7, 8, 9 years. So before Gen AI as we know it, they came out and said that they had two AIs negotiate against each other.
Yeah.
And they created their own language.
Right. That was a long time ago.
That was a while ago. Did we have a conversation about that?
That was like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I remember. They were just shortcutting their way to communicate.
Correct. So my question is, instead of us learning Chinese, do we now start learning AI languages?
Yeah, and my fear is for every industry that, so imagine a world where I believe McIntyre in After Virtue, this is a good book. He said, imagine a world where something bad happened and everyone revolted against science and burned everything and deleted everything, right?
Yeah.
But then a few generations later, there was like a renaissance and people are like, no, let's try to find. So they found like one page of a 20-page peer-reviewed journal, and they found like a few words. So they had the vocabulary, but they didn't have the context. And so what they reconstructed was just using the words of science, but it wasn't the same science that we had before it was blown up. I feel like if we run out of human generated content, we're going to turn into like just this AI resemblance of what human content should have been versus just allowing humans to continue to create.
I feel like that speaks to sales, and that speaks to what the future of engagement looks like, which is hyper personalization. This idea that, in fact, I don't know if I told you about this. I found this to be a really fascinating read because we're going to sales now.
Minority Report had it right 20 years ago.
I feel like Minority Report didn't even begin to cover what we're about to enter.
Right.
Because I just read this article that said, you know how the entire internet's based on free, and it's based on free because they pitch ads to you.
Yeah.
Well, people are now starting to search for answers on ChatGPT. They're not going to Google. So ChatGPT spits out an answer to you. Question is, in a world like that, where do you put the ad? And the answer. Oh, go ahead. You had
YouTube video.
Maybe, but they actually went a different direction. They said that let's say you're trying to buy a flight, and you just ask ChatGPT, here's my parameters. I want to fly from Philly to LA, and it's got to be this cost, and it's got to be this and that, blah 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 blah. What would happen is ChatGPT would have a deal with Expedia, with Kayak, or whatever the hell the websites are now, and they would create relationships. You and I would never see the ad. We would never be exposed to that. So for us, we move towards an ad-free experience. Your dog is not happy to see it. Like, he's like, what are you're ignoring me? Look at that. Aw.
Oh no, someone delivered something. He's looking at the front door.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
I think it came to you going, you're not paying attention. But
you remove the human. So you have agent to agent.
But it's not even just that. It's the sales. Now, imagine, for example, I go, I'm feeling sick. What should I take? And it goes, here is the drug you should take, because Lilly had a deal with ChatGPT that outrode the deal with Pfizer.
Yeah.
Or here, which clinical trial should I participate in? Depending on who sells better to ChatGPT, their trial gets promoted above another one. I think that's fascinating and that's scary, terrifying.
Is that, I mean, then related to that, like the FTC came out with something, no, that you wanted to talk about?
Well, the FTC's coming out with a different discussion. But I think it's very much an anti-competitive transparency issue that's going to have to be covered by the FTC as we continue. But the FTC came out with the rule against non-competes. So the big thing, this is going back maybe 6 months ago, which
Yeah,
now
Joe Biden. I
forever.
remember Biden did something with this too.
Well, technically, it wasn't Biden; it was actually Lena Khan. And she's been.
Well, we got her out of there, thank God.
Well, see, I don't know.
I don't know. A lot of M&As, a lot of IPOs.
Which is not a bad thing. Yeah. You're one for disruption. She's been disruptive, so she should be one of your favorites. Republicans love her actually for the most part, as do a lot of Democrats, obviously. So
the one that monopoly buster.
Yeah.
No, she's stifling innovation. So all these small caps, they're worried about, well, who's going to be left to acquire us? And now that she's gone, you're going to see a lot more M&As, a lot more IPOs.
Yeah, but for what purpose? So I can talk about that. We'll talk about M&A and IPOs in a second.
I mean, the way I look at it is for the purposes of employing and creating value at the.
No, that's not the part I'm talking about. Are they going to be disruptive by? So she was setting up more level playing fields, and the argument was that here's what could happen, right? Walmart could go in and say, I'm going to buy up every single doctor's practice. And okay, you can go to any doctor you want. I own all of them. But initially, the way they'll drive them out is by going, I'm going to charge $0 for every doctor's visit. And for the next 6 years, that's what they do. The next 10 years, that's what they do.
Right.
And then at some point when there are no more doctor's offices, they go, every doctor's visit is now $2,000. What are you going to do?
Right. Well, that's when new doctors come out and say, well, we have our own office now.
And that's not how that works out, because they'll just close it because they'll go, I can't make any money on this.
Right. Well, that's already happening with large healthcare systems in underserved areas.
And that's exactly the problem. So what Lena Khan was saying, she wants to level that playing field.
Sure. There was a little bit of overreach on her end, and it was stifling some of the early stage. Bless you. Some of the early stage startups, and it looks like that market's a lot healthier now that she's on her way out.
What I think is interesting is the next phase. And what I mean by that is she's actually set up this new, and whoever comes in is probably going to build on that. A lot of Republicans were like, we think she's actually really good. But yeah, she's moving out. She came out and said non-competes should not be allowed. So doctors should be allowed to go wherever they want to.
Sure.
In our world.
Sure. That's actually been something that a lot of sites, myself included, have had to deal with.
Correct.
You know, we found a PI. Hey, you know what? I'm signed to this hospital.
Yeah.
They have non-competes. I'm signed to this university. Yeah. They have non-competes. So it's stops the small person from trying to create.
Yeah. Well, the question becomes, in that scenario, she was saying get rid of non-competes altogether.
Right.
But the court stopped her. Well, today, Jan 2nd, the FTC filed an appeal saying they should be allowed to have to stop non-competes. Interestingly enough, Pennsylvania at the same time has come out and said, we're going to actually go ahead and have a law that says that you can't have non-competes for physicians. So Pennsylvania, and again, there's some issues with it and things that have to be worked out and blah, blah, blah. But overall, that's the general takeaway. So be clear that this is not legal advice. Put that out there.
Yeah, definitely not, guys.
But
although everyone's taking notes.
No, everyone's taking notes. But I think that's kind of part of the discussion, right? Which is, where do clinical trial sites go? And what is the impact on the valuation of clinical trial sites if you can't actually prevent your doctor from competing?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the strategy I've used, is just make the doctors a partner. And I've done that. We have 5 different LLCs here in Yuma to give each doctor some equity and their own thing, and keep everything funneled back up to the mothership, but still allocate equity where you need to. So I've never believed in non-competes. I've never used a non-compete in my life, unless some lawyer like you gave me one. But otherwise, I didn't use it. I don't think you ever did, but
no, I don't think I did. I don't even know if I've actually represented you before. I can't remember.
You've helped out with a couple contracts here and
Have
there.
I? Okay, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chris and you were
Oh,
talking.
okay.
But yeah, I've never been a believer of non-competes, and the companies that are, and there's one big one in the industry that's a CRO that scares the shit out of every CRA or employee that ever works for them. Everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
Has a reputation of going after and making examples of people who, and I think that's just bully tactics, and there's no place for that. I think.
Well, the bigger question becomes if you're a private equity company and you're going to go buy a site and you don't want to deal with a certain PI, or you are like you're stuck with that scenario at that point. And a PI might go, you know what? You gave me 5%, but this other guy gave me 15%.
When you're a business owner, I think it's different. I think that's different set of rules. I think when it's employer-employee relationship, it's pure bully ball.
No, but I'm saying employer-employee. Let's say you're talking about a PI in the normal setup that most sites use.
Okay.
In that scenario, the PI you're almost forced to make the PI equity holder when you may or may not want to.
Right. You are.
And that could
be now we have them for like fiduciary responsibility, because Darshan, you'd be amazed, man, how many people want to start sites, reach out to me. One of their first questions is, how do I hook my PI in? Right. Like, it's such a bad attitude to go into it with. Like, how do I find this person that's never done research? And then once they say yes, I hook them in so they can't do anything else unless it's with me. I think it's so bad. Like, just philosophically, I think
that investment though that they're putting in.
They're not putting in they're putting in their time, get a study, do a good job, let the PI stay with you if you're doing a good job. It's just business. Like,
there's a bunch of training that goes with it. There's a bunch of investment that goes with it.
There's not that much training that goes into it.
No?
News flash for everyone out there. No. PIs know how to be doctors. You're not going to train them on that.
Absolutely.
What are you going to do? Give them GCP? They're going to learn about GCP things? Like, they already know that.
Well, they don't. That's the funny part. I've had to go train PIs because of the mistakes they make. Because because people treat GCPs like the practice of medicine, and those are two separate things.
Right.
In many cases.
But at its essence, GCP is just you do no harm to patient. Like,
no, actually, I disagree. GCP is keep patient subject interest forward, which is not the same as practice of medicine. To me, and I'll tell you why I'm saying all of this.
Yeah.
And GCP is often about following the protocol.
Yeah, of course.
While practice of medicine is not necessarily following the protocol.
Of course. But a common denominator or first principles, like Peter Thiel says, is no harm to the patient. Like, this is research, but you still do no harm, and the research does not come before the patient's safety or well-being.
Agreed.
I mean, that doesn't. What investment, man? These guys are just trying to hook in these PIs and not let them work for other people. Like, it's terrible. I tell them all, don't. It's not gonna work. A lawsuit is gonna be like $100,000. So what? Okay, let's more. Your PI leaves. You say, "Oh ho ho! I have a non-compete. I'm coming after you." They talk to Darshan. Darshan says, "Yeah, you get like $150K for this retainer, bro. Just the retainer. You're not guaranteed you're gonna win." Like, how is that? How does that make any sense except for the attorneys?
Well, there's a way to address that as well, which is you just go, okay, here's what you have to pay me to get out of this contract. I'm fine with that too. Here's the investment I'm making. We're agreeing that this is the investment.
Yeah, I just think there's so much low-hanging fruit. Like, don't even bother. We've had PIs don't want to work, and okay,
right,
just move on. But the ones that do, we're like, you know what? You're a contractor now, but we're gonna make you a LLC partner.
Yeah.
And, we're in this for the long haul until we become Upsite Network, or we'll buy you out at some point. I mean, that's for later on. But for now, you're like a part owner with me.
But now, what happens in your version if you want to sell and they don't want to?
Yeah, I mean, money talks. At some point, everyone's got a number.
Yeah, but maybe your number is earlier than theirs.
The way I structure it is the parent company. There's only one PI as a partner, and then each one has separate LLCs with PI, so they don't even have to sell out of theirs, and nothing really changes. The new owner will own the parent company and treat things as normal. We actually made like
If they
interesting.
decide to treat things as normal, as you put it.
If they decide, yeah, and if not, they move away, or if things get complicated at that point, they call in Darshan. But at least you have a proven business at that point that works, that everyone benefited from. Not how do I hook in this PI because I found one that's willing to work with me. That's how you leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Like,
I think you need to work with doctors in a way that makes sense to them and look out for their best interest for sure.
Yeah, but and
look out for your best interest
question.
as well. Find that moment.
One of the most frequently asked questions by like potential site owners. I tell them, why are you afraid they're gonna leave? Like that means that you already know it's not gonna work out, or that you are lacking something. Because if you know it's gonna work, or you have the odds in your favor, you're not gonna be worried about them leaving. Why would they want to leave?
See, that reminds me of this whole argument against privacy. What do you have to hide? If you have nothing to hide, you should let me look. No, I sometimes just want to protect myself.
Sure. I mean, they have the right. They have the right to lock in whoever they want. It's just not a good business practice, in my opinion. Not legal advice, but I'm not an attorney in the first place.
You have a lot of opinions, though.
Yeah, we got some hot takes, man.
You've got some hot takes. Here's another question for you. What do you think about the fact that your friend, and I know he's like a close friend of yours, I'm pretty sure you guys have dinner all the time, Justin Trudeau just resigned today.
He did?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I haven't been keeping.
You and Justin didn't hang out this evening? Like,
good friend, man. Well, what can I say? I don't know anything related to that. But it's got to be the new regime coming in, or he got caught doing some shady stuff.
So I was reading about this, and they were saying that, again, Justin's been prime minister for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And his own party was like, look, it's been 10 years. It's time to go. But I don't know what the impact of that is, because Justin came down and spoke to Trump. And I assume certain deals were made.
Well, I'm maybe Trump or somebody in his cabinet said, hey, we got dirt on you. Resigns as unpopular Trudeau. Okay, nice, man. Well, congrats to the people in Canada. If I lived there, I'd be celebrating. Wouldn't you? Or you like the guy?
I don't know enough about the guy to comment.
Come on, man.
No, this is not me like trying to putz out. The guy, I'll give you my gut check based on not knowing enough.
Virtue signaling dictator.
I think he virtue signaled way too much. I don't think he's a bad guy. In the end, I think
bad?
Here's where I come at things. I think most leaders, the vast majority of leaders, really are in it to make things better. I really believe that. And however, the only thing everyone differs on is the definition of better.
Right.
So I don't think Justin's bad. Like, he may go, I want to benefit these people, and that's what makes the country better. Trump may say, here's who I want to benefit. That makes things better. And there are every prime minister, every president, they have just a different take. And that might be disruptive. And people would go, oh, you're worse. You're not worse for the country. It's just a different definition of better. And if you can see the world from that perspective, I think it makes things easier. So if you see this idea of, I want to protect, my big takeaway from Justin, from what I can gather, he's really into protecting the interests of minorities. He's really into
but has he though?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know enough about what he does to know if he's actually done that.
One thing to say that, because that's been the latest grift lately.
Sure.
Which is a road paved with tons of corruption.
Sure.
Versus actually doing it.
So here's my favorite thing, and you and I have talked about this with corruption, right?
Just wait till Doge uncovers how much government waste, fraud, and corruption is going on at federal level.
My favorite thing is I love the Nancy Pelosi index. Have you heard of, you've
Oh
heard
yeah,
about
you
it?
just follow her. She's like better than Warren Buffett. She's better than Charlie Munger. Rest in peace.
I
I got
know.
poor Charlie's almanac. I need poor Nancy's almanac.
Exactly right. Like I want to follow Nancy, but there's actually I think the second guy is actually a Republican. So follow
Yeah,
them.
I'm you and I are both no party alignment really, but
Yeah.
there's clearly a new brand of both now after this election, and
You think?
maybe that's good. Oh yeah, the Democratic Party's done the way it is. Socialism will come back, unfortunately, because of how we started this video with. There's gonna be disruption, and that usually means people getting displaced,
Mm-hmm.
and then not just blue collar workers, but
Everyone
white
white
collar
collar
workers.
workers are gonna have
So, but I think socialism and wokeism have decoupled, and I think that those are going to go two separate paths. They were on the same train, and now they're going two separate paths.
I found it interesting going back to like 2016. I thought that the Bernie Bros became this generation's Trumpers, which I think is fascinating.
Basically, man, it became anti-establishment.
Yeah.
An anti-establishment with a socialist or a capitalist, or critics would say fascist flavor, but it's still anti-establishment, which I guess is the important part. Just like being woke and being socialist was the same, and now they're kind of different. And one's fighting for equal rights purportedly, and the other one is, I don't even know what wokeism actually has devolved into, but it started from civil rights, which we can all agree was
Sure.
super important, but then personal interests get involved, man. Like, you see how much money was being made in those DEI campaigns and spending
Sure.
and all that stuff without any real outcomes to point to.
So you'd be okay with it if there were clear outcomes.
If there were actually like objective improvement year
Uh-huh.
over year, and like
Yeah.
this money's going into it and this is what
Right.
happened, yeah.
So you'd be okay with that. So your issue is with the methods, not the solution.
My issue is
Or
with
with the problem.
my issue is putting lipstick on a pig
Sure.
and dressing up something as virtuous when it's a grift and a money grab.
So your issue is not with the overall concern, if you will.
Equality, no.
Yeah. Your issue is more how they did it, how they executed on it was a sham.
Yeah, and
Okay,
they
fair enough.
they appealed
That's
to
a valid position.
emotions rather than reason. And
Mm.
when that happens, people let their guard down and say, "Yeah, I'm all with you. Let's go."
Yeah.
And then no one looks anymore. And it's not even okay to argue anymore. And this is
Right.
Trudeau's brand. Like, this
Is
was
it? Okay.
he jumped all over it. What do you mean? Is it?
No, again, like I said, I don't follow.
That's
It's not like
literally
anyone's sitting here
his
following
platform.
Canadian law or
Oh,
Canadian.
you don't need to follow Canadian law to get a gist of his brand. I don't follow Canadian law either. That
And
guy's
yet you have an opinion.
Of course, the guy's a big grifter, man. Look at what Canada, like, Canada's worse off than the US as far as their deficits and all those things.
Are they? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
their GDP growth and all that, it's non-existent.
Yeah, but you can't really use that because I feel like the US is supercharged.
That's right. If we go like 2 to 3% a year, it's been what we've been getting here.
Yeah.
If now AI somehow gets that to 3 to 5,
Yeah.
it
I
doesn't
think
seem
you don't want that though, because that's inflationary.
right. Right. And then so rates will go up and all that stuff. But if
Right.
you do get it to, let's say you double GDP, right?
Mhm.
You don't get there without displacing a lot of people. And I do think socialism will make a comeback.
Sure. The question is, to what end? I feel like you and I have had this conversation. We've alienated a lot of people in today's conversation already. I can tell.
I don't think so. I know people, I'm part of Latinos in Clinical Research. We talk about this diversity stuff all the time.
I'm not saying you didn't.
There's no there's no objective like improvements in since all this trillions of dollars have been put, maybe
I'm basing it on
billions,
a
not
different
trillions.
measurement. My metric is the fact that we got no comments today.
Yeah, it's a Monday morning, man. It's like the first normal work week of the day. I didn't even notice that. I thought we were just solo. I forgot we're live, man.
I love talking to you though.
Yeah, it's fun. You just
Well,
gotta
the
admit
big thing
when
is I don't even know if I get
Trudeau's
to
a
talk to you
grifter.
next week because next week you could be Daddy Dan.
That's right. It could be this week too. Like that's
Well,
why I
I
figured
meant you would be Daddy Dan next week even if it happens this week.
Yeah. I mean, exciting times, man, and
So how long do
Generation Beta's
you
here.
get 6 weeks off? Pregnancy leave?
Nah, I'm just working from home. Like, I'm not at the site anymore that often. Put out fires. I basically go to put out fires or to motivate people. Like, hey, why are your numbers down? What's going on? Are you giving it the old college try? Or what are you doing? Like, get under the hood a bit. Because
Okay.
unlike Trudeau and them, we are responsible for our revenues and the incomes we generate.
That's right.
We
That's right.
have objective analytics we look at and say, well, we're actually not improving. So let me fix something.
Got it. We are past our time though.
Yep, we both lost like maybe 5% of our following. Congratulations there, Sean. I don't think so, man. I think
Dude,
most
it's
people
totally
would
good because
agree.
we had fun. I had fun doing it.
I think most people would agree. My biggest gripe is this DEI stuff since 2020 and no CROs. Like it was the CROs trying to hire, more diverse
Yeah.
employees. And they did it because it looked good. And then what actually happened in the last 2 years when people kind of stopped looking? Mass layoffs. So it's like it was more for show, I feel, than actually sustainable changes. And
Well,
I think
oh, Colette came out and asked about forcing a coordinator to sign a non-compete.
yeah, it's
I think
bullshit.
that may become that's what the FTC is trying to get into and evaluate whether that's appropriate or not.
I think it's bullshit. I mean, you wouldn't even
Well,
enforce that. What's a coordinator going to go to another site? Okay, have fun. They suck.
I think Subway was enforcing that for people who are making sandwiches. So that's where
Yeah.
this all started. Here's the real question.
People
I think
like
we
to
need to come back.
control other people. I think it's wrong.
Here's my thought process. I think you and I need to do an additional conversation because we need to talk about cost plus model pricing.
I hate that. I
We
mean,
need to
that's going to
talk about
go away.
collecting, and we not need to continue the conversation on non-competes. Because
RIP
Colette
to the
finally commented.
CROs. RIP to the CROs with the cost plus pricing model.
I don't think cost plus is. I believe in the value based model,
Sure, everyone does. So does Trudeau.
but I actually try to get that from my client.
No, well, of course but doing it versus saying it are two different things, and it sounds nice to say, but to actually pull it off is hard. By the
I've
way,
been
shout
doing
out
it.
to you and Edie, man. That was a good
Thank you.
5-minute video I watched with you guys over
Oh,
the
good.
weekend.
We're doing some more about. Stay tuned. We're doing one on how to start a clinical trial site.
Good luck to
So
them. Rule number 1: give a non-compete. Hook in your PI. Get him for all he's worth.
Okay, we got to call this, but Mr. Safara,
Carney Nation.
when you're doing daddy daycare, let us know.
Could start as early as today or next week.
I'm excited, dude. Really am. Congratulations. Everyone, please first mention and reach out to Dan and congratulate him preliminarily. There you go. That's the word for it.
Go. Thank you, man. It's going to be a good year.
This is going to be a great year.
Thank you, everybody. Go follow Darshan right now. Subscribe, and